In honor of the release of the JFK files, portions of the footage that you're about to watch come from prophecies from a pastor or prophet, Andre, in the end of 2024, who gave prophecies about the JFK assassination, as well as issues leading through the history of the United States and mysteries surrounding numbers and the origin of the United States, and also leading all the way through the Alamo. I hope you enjoy the film.
And God speaks to me in my right ear, and he says this to me: the blood of a president cries from the streets of Dallas. I go, what are you talking about? Now, I don't know American history.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas?
Found out JFK died in the streets of Dallas. And we were yesterday at Dealey Plaza, and we found out all about that assassination. And I see in a vision, I see JFK taking a glass bowl of blood before the throne of God. And he does this: who will avenge me of my blood shed on earth?
We drove from Dallas, where there was a prophet named Andre from South Africa that gave a prophecy about, or had a vision about, an American president that was holding a glass full of blood. So we went over to Dallas because a part of his prophecy was about John F. Kennedy holding a bowl of blood before the Lord and saying, when will you avenge me?
So they were going down this street, and they weren't supposed to make the left here, but they did. And it was when they made the left here, and it was right down here where he was shot, right in front of this monument. And supposedly the shooter at the grassy knoll was behind that fence over there.
But this day I was over this pot of dog food, and I was stirring it, and I heard the Lord say to me, the blood of a president cries from the streets of Dallas. Now I know that scripture where it says, who will avenge us of our bloodshed on earth? It's in the book of Revelations.
Then he also had a vision. Now this is the prophet from South Africa, that several churches flew down here to give this word in Dallas, Texas, at the site of JFK's assassination in Dallas, Texas, and then down to San Antonio to the Alamo, where we also filmed. And out front the Alamo, he had seen 200 men holding blood in their hands before the Lord and saying, when will you avenge us, Lord? So this behind me is the Alamo, with the moonlight going behind it, and the Texas flag. The Alamo represents, we never forget the Alamo, represents one of the most historic fights in American history. And this is in the year of 2024, actually in November of 2024.
So I'm saying, okay, Lord, that's fine. And the next day I have another vision of these 200 men that walk into the throne room of God, and all of them, including JFK, holding like a glass container with their blood in it. And these 200 men present their blood to the Lord. And they say to him, our blood supersedes his blood. Our blood is the blood of resistance, his is the blood of assassination. And the Lord chooses the 200 men. He says, I'll honor the Alamo before I honor you, JFK.
Now, the Alamo, seen right here behind me in San Antonio, Texas, the Alamo was fundamentally, this is a fight about borders. Isn't that interesting? But when one thinks about the Alamo and the men that died there, you probably think about the legendary and famous Davy Crockett. Now, right down here, there's a lot of sevens in this story, and I'd like to highlight that. Not only sevens, but also 17s in this story. And by the way, if you take a 17, 1 and 7, 7 would make 8. 8 is the number of new beginnings in Hebrew. 8 is how many people were on Noah's Ark. But I've got the number 1777 down here, not only because it's an infamous date where at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, the tides would change for George Washington and his fledgling little Continental Army in the battle for this United States. But Davy Crockett, his father, John, the father of Davy Crockett, was a militia volunteer in the year of 1777. These are the days of the foundation of the United States. That's 1 year after the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. Now, John, this would be Davy Crockett's father, his parents, or Davy Crockett's grandparents, were killed. Now, his brother James was taken prisoner and held for 17 years. Now, in Davy Crockett's autobiography, his father, in his later years, ran a tavern, which is now a historic site. But the property owner of that tavern that Davy Crockett's father ran is, interestingly enough, referred to as none other than John Kennedy. You know, the rabbis say there is no such thing as coincidence. But I'd like to take that a little bit further, where Andre, or Prophet Pastor Andre from South Africa, gave his prophecies were out front, the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. We actually stayed at the historic Crockett Hotel in San Antonio, just adjacent the Alamo. But Davy Crockett was born on August 17th. He's from Tennessee. He was born in Tennessee, August 17th of 1786. He was an American frontiersman and politician that became more than a legendary figure in American history.
The music that we're going to hear is actually music from the mission period.
The footage that you're looking at comes from the inside of the Alamo, and as stunning as it seems, all of this will very likely tie in even with Israel. This is the Alamo's recreation, the very famous Battle of the Alamo. I believe we're actually told to remember the Alamo. There were roughly 200 frontiersmen that were besieged. They were literally surrounded on all sides and ultimately lost their lives in the Battle of the Alamo. As an interesting part of legend, following the battle, Santa Anna had wanted the Alamo completely destroyed so there'd be no historical marker so that people would not remember the events of the Alamo, what happened at that Catholic mission. But when his men arrived, they were terrified away because the sacred ground of the Alamo, they recorded, was surrounded by a cast of angels. Though we may die today, in the name of God on high, you still shall not stand. Remember the Alamo. David Crockett went out and took a stand against the armies of Santa Anna at the Alamo before dying the morning of March 6th, a lot of sixes in this number, March 6th of 1836. But if we rewind backwards just a little to our number of 1777, well, the first president of this United States was, of course, George Washington, here seen in a painting, famously praying at Valley Forge. It was on July 4th of 1776 that the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia. However, shortly afterwards, the British would come in and they would take the heart of Philadelphia, nearly squashing out George Washington and his fledgling Continental Army. However, on December 25th and 26th, always notice the numbers, the night of Christmas, a Merry Christmas to the British that evening, going through Christmas night all the way to the 26th, where you get the very famous depictions of Washington crossing the Delaware, a battle often compared in this modern age with many of the events surrounding Donald Trump. Washington crossing the Delaware. So it was on December 25th, the night of Christmas, December 25th, that this stealth battle would take place, going through the night of December 25th to the 26th of 1776. There's the Vav right there. This marked a turning point in American history, this stealth battle. But it wouldn't be until October of 1777 at the Battle of Saratoga where the tides would change, perhaps in answer to the prayers of George Washington, who at Valley Forge was losing men left and right to the elements and the snow, would say, "Lord, if you would just give me another day. If you would give me victory, I will hand freedom to these men that are willing to die for it." Well, on October 7th of 1777, at the Battle of Saratoga, the tides would change, and God would give victory to George Washington and this United States. That battle technically went on from October 7th to the 17th of 1777. Now we come forward to the 7th President of the United States, Andrew Jackson, seen right here, who's quoted commonly similar to Donald Trump as stating, "I am the calm before the storm." Andrew Jackson is recorded to have been, his first election was rigged by the elites of his time against him and the banksters of his age. However, the popular vote, the common man, loved Andrew Jackson so much, he was called the People's President, that on the next election they simply could not overcome the support for Andrew Jackson. Okay, tell me about the store we're at.
You're standing in front of the oldest non-residential building still standing in Franklin. It was built between 1806 and 1808. Andrew Jackson, David Crockett, Sam Houston have all been in this front room of our building. Jackson's troops were paid out of here in 1816 on the way back from New Orleans. Since you're from Texas, I will let you know that our Tennessee flag has 3 stars. We used to have 4, but when we founded Texas, we gave you a star. And that's because 76% of the people who liberated Texas were Tennesseans, including Crockett in Houston. So Texans have always been close because of that.
Now, if we move from Andrew Jackson, the 7th president, coming after Washington the 1st, 1, 7, and Abraham Lincoln, number 16, a 1 and a 6, which of course if you add together, you would get the number 7. But even in Hebrew, 16, well, you'd have the Aleph, that would be the number 1 in Hebrew, and the 6, that would be the Vav, or the number of man. Combine them together, you would get the 7, or the Zion. He would be the founder of what we today call the Republican Party, or the GOP, the Grand Old Party. Abraham Lincoln fought to break the bonds of slavery in this nation, as they were never a part of the pilgrims. When they came to this land, they were coming here for freedom from oppression. In fact, it was actually in 1607, often called First Landings, where this land we today call the United States was dedicated to the Lord. In fact, 1607, coming from those first landings, would found the first colonies, the first colony of Jamestown, By the way, the 1607 First Landings Project, where they just did a rededication at the sites, a rededication of the United States back to the Lord. The First Landings Project was put together by my friend Robert Agee, Donica Hudson, Don Blake, Jack Stagman, Doc Pete Chambers was involved, as well as one of the most incredible speeches at the First Landing 1607. Glenn Beck gave a shockingly amazing speech and prayer for America. First Landings 1607. More than that, as a tiny side note, if you were to come from 1607 all the way to the year of 2024, look how the cross lit up behind me. I don't control those letters, by the way. I just let them scroll and run. The year of 2024, you would be exactly 417 years from First Landings and the dedication of this land to the Lord. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president. The next number after 16, of course, would be 17. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated for his, it's believed to be for his desire to bring freedom in this land. Now, coming full circle, strangely, to another president that was assassinated, John F. Kennedy right here and Lincoln over here. Well, there's a lot of correlations between these two presidents of the United States. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, was seated in the theater box number 7 of Ford's Theater at the time of his death and assassination, while John F. Kennedy was riding in the 7th car of his motorcade, which happened to be a Lincoln, a limousine Lincoln, when he was shot. And John F. Kennedy's alleged assassin, ran into a theater. It just, I don't know, seems to me there's a lot of 7s and 17s in this story.
Then I see this long brown table and I see these old men dressed in funny clothes, and I work out they're the founding fathers. I stared this afternoon because each one of those founding fathers had a chess piece in his hand. And there was a wooden table and they were doing this. And I said, you can't put a chess piece on a wooden table. You need a chessboard. And they say this to me: we are waiting for Texas to guarantee the Constitution so that we can play with a chessboard. What did I see in the Alamo? A chessboard. I must be honest, freaked me out. I said, okay, Lord, what are you saying to me? Now here's what the scripture says. Nothing is established unless it's prophesied into existence.
Now, coming back full circle to our number 17 and our God of mathematics, our 10 and our 7. Well, it was on Nisan 17th that the ark, Noah's ark, is recorded. The waters receded, and it's recorded that the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat in the 7th month on the 17th day, or Nisan 17. Now, going a step further, it was on Nisan 17th when the Red Sea parted. A lot of this time frame you're in is compared to the Exodus story, when the waters of the Red Sea parted and the Hebrews walked through on dry land with all of Pharaoh's gold. Always notice the details. That was on Nisan 17th. But then, interestingly enough, Jesus Christ was crucified on the 14th of Nisan. Well, 3 days later, when that tomb door would roll away, well, that would be Nisan and once again 17. So I'm here with Robert on Robert's ranch, which is called Goshen.
It's Goshen, the AG Lone Star Homestead.
The AG Lone Star Homestead. So, but you also call it Goshen.
Yes, sir.
Yes. What is Goshen?
Well, Goshen was the land that the Hebrew slaves were protected in during the time of tribulation. In that quest for understanding, I started to discover some things. You know, investigation or condemnation before investigation is the height of ignorance, right? I think we've been trained to think it's ridiculous. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the CIA put out there, you know, that they coined the term conspiracy theorist to discredit anybody who looks into any kind of conspiracy.
That actually started with JFK.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now, JFK, or John F. Kennedy, this is an assassination of an American president that, come to think of it, has never really been resolved. But whatever the case, speaking of the Exodus moments and a Goshen, gold from an Exodus. As we go on this journey, well, I got a call from Robert at his Goshen. So Robert said that there was a man flying into a prophet named Prophet Andre, Pastor Andre, who was flying from South Africa. There's a lot of South Africa in this story. And he had a word for America.
I saw this angel standing in snow, and he pointed his golden rod to the snow, and the first number that came up was 4. Then he pointed again, 7. Then he pointed again, 11. Then he pointed again, 22. Then he pointed again, 29. Then he pointed again, 47. I think I've got the lotto numbers.
That's what I was thinking.
Brother,
Let me write that down. It didn't work.
I'm playing the lotto, man. I'm saying, hey, we got provision from the Lord. And nothing, I never won a cent.
And he wanted to give that word after Donald Trump was the 47th president of the United States. November 22nd is the date of Kennedy's assassination, and it is one of the numbers in this list of numbers that this angel gave and wrote in the snow in this vision. But I felt like that set of numbers, since they start each one of the prophecies with this angel writing in the snow, they could actually have a deeper meaning to perhaps some of you, the viewers, than even what Pastor Andre speculates about the series of numbers the angel gave.
My wife tells me 3 weeks before we come, but Andre, don't you get it? There's 4 of us going to America. We're leaving on the 7th of November. November's the 11th month. And I'd always said I'm not coming to America again until Trump is elected president, 47th president. The 29, I have no idea. I keep saying, Lord, reveal to me what the 29 is on. And I sat and I said, Ursula, it's confirmation that we need to go.
Keep in your prayers South Africa. The prophet that you saw in this film is from South Africa, Pastor Andre. There's a lot not right going on in South Africa, and everybody knows it. God in a Nutshell, I'd ask you to come over to godinanutshell.com. We're about to finish, it's been years in the making, our full-length Exodus over at godinanutshell.com. We have an entire Genesis series that if you haven't seen at God in a Nutshell, going all the way through these Vav films, takes you all the way through Gilgamesh, through Nimrod, through the origin of pretty well all of it that goes with these books that look great on a coffee table that are in my hand. Each page is color and takes you through the timelines going all the way through Genesis and Exodus. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. God bless every last one of you and your families. Please pray for South Africa. I would ask you that as we release this particular video. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. Did we end up going to the moon? In honor of the coming Mars missions, in the bottom of this video, you can volunteer, not for yourself to go to Mars, but anyone that you think or would like to volunteer for them to possibly go to Mars. I hope that you enjoyed this video. This was actually portions of a longer film called The Man on Floor 17, which we did at the end of 2024. Over at godinanutshell.com, we have wealths of other films. I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. God bless every last one of you and your families on the other side of the screen.